Hello and welcome to Mental Health Matters with me, Dr. Audrey Tang.
And me, Judith Crozier.
This is the show where we talk about all things mental health and well-being without the quick fixes and the hot takes. We have practitioner-led expertise and conversation. Today's topic is entrepreneurship, but in particular, female entrepreneurship, because Dr. Hayley Lewis, who is a wonderful previous guest on the show, that was her PhD research. So I'm very excited about hearing about this. But there are very particular issues that entrepreneurs face, which are not normally covered when we do training in organizations and so on. Of course, why would they be? Because you're going into an organization. Very different setup.
Yes, very different.
So for you, I know you've just set up your own business, but you have had businesses before. Are there any experiences that you would have said, actually, I didn't have that in the workplace, but this is new?
Well, I suppose just the fact that literally everything is down to you. That's obviously the biggest thing for me. You know, I have to think of everything all of the time. And that was. But I think what I did was I just thought, I'm going to do this, and did it, and didn't consider the pitfalls or, you know, the difficulties. I just kind of did it, and then just... So had I thought about what might happen or, you know, what the pitfalls could be, I might not have done it. So I kind of had that...
That's interesting.
Yeah, not because anything bad happened.
No.
But just because... It makes you think, oh, I don't know, this is such a huge thing to take on. I never had any of that, so I kind of did it. I'm not saying that this is. I'm not advising people to do this, but I just thought, I've got this idea, I'm going to do it, and I did it, and therefore there was no fear around it.
Yeah, and I think that is one of those things, because you're absolutely right. You have to think of everything, which includes accounting, it includes bookkeeping, it includes the really boring stuff, which often isn't talked about when you are setting up your own business, because you're thinking about the product or the offering and the website and what the client sees or what the customer sees. It's not the other stuff of, okay, sick pay, holiday pay. Exactly. Do I earn enough to actually keep the lights on?
Exactly. And, you know, there is no backup. If you fall, you fall, and it's you that's got to pick yourself up, metaphorically, and, well, in my dog walking business, physically as well, literally. But yeah, so there's a lot to it.
So I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation. We'll bring Dr. Hayley on.
Welcome back to the studio, Hayley. It's so nice to see you always.
Thank you so much for having me back again.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we're both really looking forward to this discussion. So, I'll just jump straight into it. Why do you think entrepreneurs have seemingly missed out on the talk around burnout? And what makes them unique in their needs, do you think?
So, I think it depends who you're talking about when you talk about entrepreneurs. I think... in my mind, there's almost two categories. There are the big names, who often come from a very privileged position. You know, the people I'm talking about, you see them on Instagram, you know, get up at 4 a.m. and crush the day, and we all have the same 24 hours. And you only have to... There was a recent episode of Stephen Bartlett's podcast, The Diary of a CEO, where he had a guest on who said there's no such thing as burnout.
Wow, that's interesting.
Which he's had quite a big backlash.
I'll bet. And good.
On that. So I have that category. And then there are entrepreneurs who are us.
Yeah.
Just normal people with businesses and normal lives, where I don't think burnout has passed them by. In fact, I think we're seeing more and more out there in mainstream media and social media about this concept of, for example, the squeezed middle. So I think maybe for women going into business and kind of becoming entrepreneurs later on in life, perhaps in their 40s, 50s, 60s, but for some of those, they're experiencing that squeezed middle. They've got children who have needs. They've got older parents or maybe a partner with needs alongside kind of running a business. For maybe younger female entrepreneurs, they might be raising young children, they might be at that kind of early start of building a family whilst building a business. And then there's hormonal stuff as well, you know. I think it's really interesting. We're seeing a big spike in women in their 50s setting up their first business.
Wow.
And but alongside that, you've got peri or full menopause and the hormonal fluctuations that come with that. I mean, if I speak from my own experience, I'm in my 50s. I can have big energy crashes. So I've had to start crafting my business and my time around that.
Yeah.
So I think there's some biological stuff as well as societal stuff that can often go on for women in entrepreneurship.
And sort of going on the psychological stuff, there is this kind of hustle culture.
Yeah.
You see it by influencers, and it's supposed to kind of, in a way, look cool and let's always do this. But I want to know what hustle culture actually is, because for me, it doesn't look like hassling for sales. It actually doesn't look like that. What it looks like to me is not being able to say no when I'm starting off, because if I don't say yes, I don't get paid.
Yeah.
That to me is hustle culture. How does it present?
Well, it's really interesting. My second ever job when I was at school was at McDonald's.
Right.
So got me 5 stars and everything eventually.
Nice.
But a big thing in the culture, and I remember the story. It was about hustle. You could never be stopping.
Wow.
And so hustle is a very American thing, I think, and a capitalist thing that's permeated so many other countries and cultures. And so, you know, for me, hustle is you can never stop. And even when, you know, you see these big entrepreneurs, people like Gary Vaynerchuk, talking about encouraging people to have their side hustle. So, you know, you do your 9 to 5 job, you come home, have a bit of dinner, maybe spend an hour with your family, and then, you know, from 8 till 2, you work on your side hustle, and then you get kind of 6 hours sleep and go again.
Wow.
And, it's this kind of so for me and the kind of rhetoric I see, it's that you can never stop. And a lot of, and the kind of, you know, you hear words like the grind, you know, hustle and grind, and that was one of the kind of catalysts for me deciding to do my doctoral research into female entrepreneurship, because it just wasn't sitting well with me, and I thought there has to be another way. That can't be the only way to be successful as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And kind of the definitions of success as well, which we might explore later on in the conversation.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what kind of comes to mind for me when I think of hustle. It's side hustle, it's grind, it's relentless.
Yes, and sort of linking your point with success here, our identity tends to be quite tied up in what we do and almost how much we are hustling or grinding. If we, as women, maybe I just speak for myself here, but I think Jude experiences this as well. If we stop and we're not hustling and we're lazy.
Yeah.
And that's a real issue that I think women seem to experience more than men do.
And that is deep-rooted cultural stuff. That's hundreds of years old. You know, it goes back to that idea of the Protestant work ethic, for example, or Catholic guilt, to name 2 of the big religions. Did my first degree in history. I'm fascinated by the impact of kind of things that happened a long time ago and how they're still kind of evident now. But I think, that the guilt and the shame that can often come with not always doing, not always having a to-do list. And I think I think when it comes to identity and work, and there are far more learned, clever people than me doing work on work and identity. But I think when I think about some of my clients that I work with, particularly those in corporate life who are burning out or burnt out, I think that our identity gets so knotted in with our work and professional identity, and that starts at a young age. You know, if you think about, if you're a first gen going to university, like your parents' aims and aspirations are put into you from a very young age. It's driven into you at school, and so, you know, it's about getting a good job, then getting good salary, and then working your way up. And so if anything happens that upends any of that, well, then we think we're bad people, because it's so woven in.
Yeah.
Yes.
It becomes so woven in. And let alone if you do something left field, like leave a highly paid job to go it alone and set up your own business. People question who you are, you might question who you are. So I think our profession, who we are, and our identity are so woven, and that's deep rooted cultural, historical stuff, and that's hard to unpick at times.
I think that's why it's important that we have these conversations, because I think we can be doing these things and not realising that this is what is actually driving us to feel as we do. It's not just us kind of, oh, this is how I'm programmed. There is a programmer somewhere, whether it's culture, family, and so on, that has put that into us in the first place. We are going to keep you, Hayley, and we're going to go to a clip from when Hayley was last on our show.
So I don't teach, because I think it's a personal journey that people need to. I can't believe I used the word journey. It had to come up at least once.
Of course it does.
So much as coach or suggest. So my 3 suggestions, born out of things that clients have found have worked for them. Many of my clients have found work for them, and things that I've experimented with as well. So first up is, label your boundaries non-negotiable or open to compromise, because I think one of the traps we can end up in is we set hard and fast rules, which can become stressful in and of themselves. So if I know there's a boundary where I'm like, that's not for shifting, but actually there's a boundary where I can shift if I need it, that allows us more breathing space.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters, where we're talking to Dr Hayley Lewis about female entrepreneurship and burnout and all around that, really. It's an interesting chat. So Hayley, what would you say are some of the damaging myths about success that can lead to burnout?
Yeah, I think there are 3 that are really pervasive, and I'm sure your viewers will have or listeners will have come across these. So I think we all have the same 24 hours a day, which we know is absolute nonsense. You know, don't compare me against Taylor Swift or Beyonce. Because they've got a whole crew behind them. I don't. Do whatever it takes, and if you don't, you really don't want it enough. That's quite a toxic one. I see that quite a lot, because that puts it all on you. And I mean, of course, there's an element of the part that we play in our success, but sometimes there are things going on around us as well. And the other one is, well, we all go through this. It's a rite of passage. That you know, you've got to go through the hard stuff to be a success as an entrepreneur and business owner. You know, I went through it. What makes you any different? So it's this notion that I went through it, so you should. Not questioning whether what you're going through is right or fair or not. So those are the 3. Or
no one deserves to be more successful than you, because you know you've had a hard time. So why should someone else not? You know, you have to go through the hard time.
Yeah, spot on, 100%. So those are the 3 that I see pop up constantly, particularly on social media, but also in things like The Apprentice. You know,
Yes.
I don't watch it anymore. I don't watch it anymore. And my husband asked me why, because I used to watch it when it first, for years, when it first came out. And then I stopped watching it for two reasons. Because I think it portrays one way to be successful. You've got to be shouty and like, seize the day and wear suits and all that. But also, I didn't like the way the editing portrayed the women. How many times in the boardroom did we see the kind of the screaming harridans?
Yes.
So I think there's some really unhelpful messages both in the traditional media but also the social media, and that's why for our well-being we need to step away from that stuff regularly.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's true regardless of what
In
topic we're
general
talking
life.
about. You know, I think it's just
Absolutely.
important.
Yes.
Yeah, really key.
Definitely. So what can entrepreneurs do to look after themselves then, especially given what you've just said?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. So my own research, I found the number one psychological factor that made a big difference to women succeeding, particularly in the early years of kind of going it alone and setting up their own business, was a supportive community. So consistently, in one of my studies, every single woman from different walks of life, they all said the same thing.
Wow.
So whether that's being part of formal group coaching, maybe with other women who are business owners or in the early stages of business, or having a mentor, or just having just drawing on your professional network that you've built over the years. And kind of maybe you've kind of got a few friendships that have developed through that. You know, all of those things for me personally have been really helpful. So you don't have to pick or choose, but I think there is something really powerful about our relationships, and I think women tend to be really good at that
Yes.
stuff, and it can feel quite lonely. And if you're coming from, if you've worked in an organisation and suddenly you've kind of made that brave, bold decision to kind of do this thing for yourself, it can feel quite jarring. You go from a kind of an organisation with a team and then suddenly on your own.
Yes.
So kind of, being really intentional about the relationships you have in place. I think scheduling your downtime.
Yeah.
You know, look ahead in your diary, whether it's per quarter or half yearly or annual. I do it annually. I know I can go at full pace for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then I need a good break, whether it's a week, whether it's a long weekend. And I plan out nice stuff to do. And I think if you are a solopreneur, so you're on your own, like me and like countless other women, I'm conscious that men listen to this as well, so this is useful for you as well. The quality of the service is down to you are the service, and so it's in your interest to kind of look after yourself so that you can be of best service to whoever your clients are. I think one more thing I'd say is be really clear on what your definition of success is, because that's going to help you kind of create a life that works for you. Whenever I'm doing coaching with women setting up their businesses, so it's kind of, I've got this like little subset of coaching that I do. The first question I ask them is, what kind of life do you want your business to support?
Nice.
Because I think we get it the wrong way around sometimes. And I think that gets to the heart then of, and everything else then leads from that. Like, how much effort are you prepared to put in? What sacrifices are you and aren't you prepared to make? And then you can craft your life around your business. Or rather craft your business around your life. So those are kind of just some ideas that hopefully are helpful for people.
Really helpful,
Definitely, it is. What do you want this business to support is much more important than going the other way, because when you're very excited about creating your business, you are going to jump straight into the business aspect of it and think that that is the life that you want to have as well. So it's a very fine line that needs to be teased out a bit. I'm really interested in your point that you said earlier about scheduling time in for yourself, and even and especially, well, we all have 24 hours. No, we don't have the same 24 hours. My 24 hours will look very different to somebody else's 24 hours. So with that in mind, how does somebody whose 24 hours is also involved with caring responsibilities, if maybe they're in the sandwich generation, they need to pay their bills, but they also need to take a break.
Yeah.
How do we support somebody to make that balance?
Yeah. And that's not easy stuff. I think there's a couple of things. Number one, charge enough.
Yes, that is absolutely
the biggest issue.
Yeah.
The biggest issue whenever I'm working with women, maybe they're kind of 2-3 years in and they're really struggling.
Yeah.
They're struggling to make ends meet. And I look at what their fees are, charging nowhere near enough what their expertise deserves. So there is, and that actually came up as an issue in one of my studies. One of the hurdles, biggest hurdles, is a discomfort with either managing finances or working with an accountant, understanding finances, or kind of the fees that you ask for. So I think that's a really important thing to get help with if you struggle with that. But yeah, set the right fees, because that makes, I mean, I'll share my own story. I didn't do that at the start. And there was me thinking, and I learned very, very quickly. So I was charging £100 an hour as a coach back in 2016. And for me, like coming from a working class background, I was like, wow.
That's a lot, yeah.
No. 2 hours travel there, 2 hours travel back, which I can't book any other clients in. So that's 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
So essentially I was earning £20 an hour.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's, I think thinking that stuff through, a game changer for me, if that's helpful to share. I share it with a lot of women who are starting out, working for themselves, or maybe they're struggling. So I was about 2 years into running Halo Psychology. It's my 10-year anniversary this year.
Wow.
But 2 years in, and I was asked by a big consultancy to be part. They were putting forward a kind of a pod of coaches. So they were approaching different people who were experienced coaches, and they were asking each of us for our fees. So I have, and the client they were delivering for was a big charity. So I give a discount for charities. So I had my main fee, and I said, here's my charity discount. Anyway, I happened to be at dinner with the head of consultancy, and I will be forever grateful to her, because she said there were 10 coaches, 5 women, 5 men. And she said, I kid you not, the 5 most expensive
Were the men.
were the men.
Yeah.
The lowest were the women. That wasn't, that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
The cheapest woman was 10 times less than the man
Wow.
in one spot.
Wow.
Here's the
Goodness
clincher.
me.
The client was happy to go with that number one man's fee.
Yeah.
I went home that night and completely overhauled my fees.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was, so I'm indebted
Yeah.
to her. And I think, I mean, you were touching on it just then. We need to be sharing these stories to help each other. And I remember watching a clip with the very famous female entrepreneur Cindy Gallop, and she was talking at an event for women in business, and she talked about these, and she said, keep saying a figure and go as high as you can until you start laughing and it feels uncomfortable. And it might seem quite a trite thing, but lots of the women that I talked to, they found that works.
Yeah.
So yeah. So money, knowing what to charge and not doing too much for free. And that's where being part of a group and kind of thinking about your fees. And then the other thing is segment your income into pots. I like to call them pots.
Yeah.
Always put a percentage aside for your tax first.
Yes.
I know lots of people who've got really stuck into a really awful situation because they haven't done that. That always comes off first. If you put that aside.
Yeah.
I think work out what you need. If you've answered that question, what kind of life do I want my business to support? As part of that, you'll know what you need per month or per quarter. And then my advice, and this is just my advice, is only take that.
Yeah.
Because it can be if you have a good financial quarter where you exceed your income, it can be really easy to go, I'll take it. But you don't know if there's going to be a rainy day or an emergency. So I'm a great believer in just take what you need and keep squirreling the rest away in a kind of a savings rainy day emergency pot. But you can also use that for training in the future and stuff. So that's kind of my another top tip I have for people wanting to kind of have that balance between not always having to work and having some time off, and that emergency fund can help you do that.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Really key points which aren't often talked about, so I'm so glad you brought them up, because setting fees is one of the hardest things to do, and you're absolutely right, because you think, well, actually, if I break down how much I earn compared to my old job, I'm earning more on my own. But of course, because I don't get sick pay, I don't get travel pay, I don't get all of these other benefits which work is otherwise covering. So very, very important. This is a tricky question. It's supposed to maybe an ethical or moral question. If you're struggling, do you let your clients know? And I ask this question because one female entrepreneur did, and it really worked out well for her. But then other people have done it, and it's really backfired because the client is now thinking, oh, well, they can't cope.
They've lost confidence, maybe.
So where do
You're
we...
not going to like my answer. Well, you'll know what my answer is going to be. I think it depends. I think it depends on your clients. I think it depends on the context you're working in. So, for example, if I've got a one-to-one client, maybe it's a leader, a female leader who's going through a really hard time in their role, in their organisation, or maybe it's a woman struggling with her business. I think sharing bits of that can be a moment of empathy and you're not alone, and helping them not feel so ashamed, because look, you know, but I've got other clients. If I think about some of my UK government department clients, no. So I think it depends. So there's something about your judgment on that, and also what purpose is it serving?
Yes. That, I think that's the question we need to ask ourselves for everything.
Yes.
What purpose is this serving? We had another guest who always asked, is it helpful? It's those sorts of questions we don't ask enough. And the other one I would add on to that is, what is my intention? What am I trying to get from this conversation? Because you're absolutely right. I have a one-to-one client where if I need to move the day, they're fine. And I know they're going to be fine because that's the relationship we have. But if it was, say, a training client, start moving days, you're now dealing with abroad and all kinds of things. You show up. So, really
context,
good points.
Isn't it?
I'm really glad we're having this conversation.
It's
because
brilliant.
these are things, especially when you're starting out, you just think you've got to serve everyone and everything. And if you're not charging rates to be able to do that, that's an issue. We are keeping Hayley, and we are going to be back right after another clip from when Dr. Hayley was on our show previously.
Be clear in your communication. Be short, succinct and clear in what your boundary is, because Caroline Webb talks about this in her book, How to Have a Good Day. Clarity is calming for the human brain. When things are ambiguous or open to interpretation, it can be really stressful for us. So being clear with people, they might not like the message, but weirdly it gives them certainty. So be clear. I don't know if I'm a big fan of Sarah Millican, the comedian. I adore her. And in one of her shows, she says no is a complete word.
Yes,
No.
I've heard her say that.
Yeah.
And I bought her necklace. She had a necklace in conjunction with Tatty Divine, the jewellery company, and it just says no.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll wear it when I need that reminder.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. We are having a fascinating conversation with Dr. Hayley Lewis on female entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship in general. And one of the key things that's really resonated is about setting fees and how difficult that can be. So that's something, if you want to get hold of Hayley and speak to her about this, there's something that she will be able to offer support with. There's one thing, I'm going to come back to things like working for free and overgiving in a moment, but another thing that I see a lot in entrepreneurs maybe, or I think I just see it a lot in the workplace, is perfectionism. I don't want to give it to the client because it's not perfect, or those sorts of behaviours. How can we step back from this feeling of it has to be perfect when perfection is subjective anyway?
True.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think thinking about where's that pressure to be perfect coming from, because in psychology we talk about there's three forms of perfectionism, and some of us might be at the mercy of all three. There's us putting the pressure on ourselves, so there's an internal thing. There's kind of forcing others to be perfect, so putting your standards on others, and then there's societal pressures. And I think for those of us who work for ourselves and as women working for ourselves, I think it's probably a combination of it's kind of comes from the self, but there's societal stuff as well. You know, be the good girl, you know, make everything look nice. It's got to be good. So I think the way that I see this show up with female entrepreneurs who are running their own business is, for example, if they're launching a new product or service or a website, they want it to be perfect, and they'll tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak before launching. But we know 2026, the world is far too fast for that now, and somebody's going to pass you by.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's something about what help can you get. Do you need to get help to get something up and running?
Yeah.
So not feeling like you've got to do it on their own, because working with someone else will challenge you. I'm about to launch something for my 10th birthday in May. My business's 10th birthday in May. I could have done it alone, but I know I would have kept tweaking. I'm working with someone who is really pushing me to be like, good enough is good enough. So there's something about can you work with someone else to help you. And maybe define what good enough looks like for yourself. I think there's something about, I think it's quite normal. I think having lots of doubt and uncertainty is quite normal, particularly when we're at the start of our entrepreneurial journey. And so making sure you're regularly reflecting on the lessons learned.
Yes.
So I've shared a few of my own lessons here, and that's again where being part of a coaching group, or there's a concept called masterminds often in entrepreneurship, or finding a mentor. But yeah, I think it's really valuable and a really powerful way to offset the perfectionist tendencies when we're kind of reflecting and learning, because that kind of gets us thinking, I've done it, or I can do it, and it doesn't need to be perfect, and actually it worked really well. So I think having other people to bounce off, or who are going to constructively and safely challenge you and push you, can be helpful.
And very important. They do talk about the mastermind network of like-minded people, maybe women for women, but it's quite important because your friends aren't necessarily on that same journey. It's not the right network to be having those discussions at that level that you need them. But also your point about perfectionism, I just think about my own websites. I have 3 of them. I have changed and tweaked them over the years I've been running them. And so what you put out there in the first place is never going to be the be-all and end-all, because your direction changes, what you do changes, your team changes, and so on. So I think that's really important advice as well. Let's go, it kind of goes back to fee setting. Why is it we overgive? We work for free. We do all of those extra things, which actually it gets to a point where you are known. You are the person people want. You are the person people are going to pay for. How do we then change that in our own heads when we've made that step?
Yeah, well, I think a big proportion of why, as women in business and as entrepreneurs, we tend to overgive is it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I think a lot of it is societal and cultural, like that whole good girl concept, and it's nice to be nice and give, and I think I mean I see a number of ways, like going over time. So, you know, if a client's paid for a 60-minute coaching, like if you've got a coaching business, for example, but you let it go over 70 minutes, you know, if you keep doing that with each client, that's a lot of time that you're losing. That's unpaid for. I think so one of the things that I find helpful is having a time, because I'm a bit chatty, as you all know. So when it comes to coaching, for example, I put a timer on at 50 minutes. And that's for me. That's to kind of alert me. So doing things like that. I think giving too much away for free, it's really interesting. I think it's about being strategic and intentional. Going back to your point, Audrey, around why am I doing this? So I give a lot of content away for free, but that is very, very deliberate. I've had a lot of very well-meaning people enter into my chat on LinkedIn saying you could monetize this stuff. I know I could. I choose not to, because not everyone can afford to work with me. But actually my mission is to help as many people managers as possible be better, be more confident. And so my content, my free content, my free ebooks do two things. It helps them, which taps into one of my core values. The second thing is I get quite a lot of clients off the back of that stuff.
Right.
So, but it's a strategic thing. I'm not just randomly giving everything away for free. I'm not giving my time away for free. And the conversation the three of us had about boundaries, and I shared the article I'd written about boundary setting. One of the most popular, it's been one of the most shared articles I've ever written. It's been shared 250,000 times.
Wow.
One, I know, blows my mind. But one of the things people often refer to is I've got a series of answers for entrepreneurs when you are asked to deliver something for free. Could you just deliver this course for us for free? Could you come and give this talk for International Women's Day for free? And I've got 4 answers, cut and paste, that you can use. So either go back and watch that episode, or we'll put the article link in the show notes, and you can go and just cut and paste that to answer and push back when you're asked to work for free, because you are worth more than that.
And I think it is some of those things where sometimes it does depend on whether you will get value from that working for free. Some things do. TEDx, for example, they don't pay you. Full stop. They do not pay you. But doing it, it's huge.
And that's strategic. Audrey.
Strategic.
You know, this is what I'm talking about. Not just randomly saying it's like, it's a very clear, well thought out part of your marketing strategy. You're not kind of getting swept away by all the, you're thinking like a business owner.
There's a big difference then, isn't there? So you touched on this before with groups and mentors you mentioned, but what would you say is the kind of community that women in business need more of?
I think there are loads out there already. I think, you know, for example, if you're on somewhere like Instagram and you look at the hashtags like female entrepreneurs or women in business, you'll kind of come across all sorts of communities. You know, there's communities for women in business who are wanting help with their finances. You know, I think there's an Instagram account called She Invests. They are doing brilliant work to help women understand more about managing their finances. And you can attend workshops. You know, Deborah Meaden's now set up something for women in business around being more financially astute. Because I keep seeing their adverts pop up all the time on Instagram. If you're a neurodivergent entrepreneur, you've got, for example, entrepreneurs like Amanda Parry on Instagram, who she talks about it a lot. She's got ADHD, and so she's creating a community to help female entrepreneurs who are diagnosed with ADHD, who have often other challenges that they're grappling with alongside trying to have a successful business. So she's created an amazing community as well. So I think there's already tons of communities out there. It's just about kind of searching on social media, or reaching out to people like us and asking who we'd recommend or groups we'd recommend. There are tons out there.
Yeah.
So what do you think one change could make a difference to a female entrepreneur who thinks she needs to be everything? So a leader, a parent, a friend, etc.
Going to be the same answer as the previous one. I think it depends on the woman and the context. I think one change that works for one woman might not work for another. However, I think if you're going to push me, I think it's about getting better at setting boundaries that are helpful for you.
Yeah.
And so again, maybe have a listen to the episode that we recorded, the three of us, about boundary setting.
Yeah.
Because there's some helpful advice on that.
Yeah, great advice. And I think everyone could probably tighten up their boundaries a little bit, couldn't we? That's great, thank you. So where can we go to learn more about you and what you do?
So I have my website, so Halo as in angel, halopsychology.com. There's lots of free stuff, but there's lots of articles on wellbeing and a whole host of things for you to go and access. I'm mainly on LinkedIn, so you can find me at Dr Hayley Lewis, and I'm on Instagram as HeyPsych, and I share lots of, well, I think it's useful content across both those platforms.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
And as always, thank you for your time. Really insightful responses as well, because there's just so much which I think seems to be missed out when we have general wellbeing sessions. Because you go into organisations, they aren't necessarily going to be entrepreneurs in there. You're giving a workplace wellbeing session. It can feel like entrepreneurs don't have much in there for them. And yet they're facing very unique struggles and situations. So thank you as always, and we look forward to having you back on the show again.
I would love that. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me again. And I hope your listeners found that helpful.
Amazing. We shall head over to Test the Trend. For today's Test the Trend, I wanted to pick up on something Dr. Hayley was saying in our conversation. And this is about who our competitors are and what the issues are that we might face with them. So just to give you an example, whenever I have to pitch a book, I have to say who the other authors are in my area, what they're writing about, how they're doing it. So for you, if you were doing a sort of a business exploration exercise, who would you say your biggest competitors were?
For what I'm currently doing or what I did before?
Either for the cafe that you've set up or your dog walking business.
It was interesting because there's a very different feel around competitors. So for dog walking, I looked in the area and loads of people are doing dog walking, but more people than there are dog walkers want dog walkers. So that was okay. The competition didn't matter at all. We offered something slightly different as well, which meant that we were slightly, you know, in demand for, which was great. The cafe is very different because the competition, obviously I looked into the competition where people are geographically and what they offer, and that I think has a bigger impact because of marketing and because of supply and demand is not exactly the same as dog walking. So it's very, very different. So yes, cafes are competitors, but also so are pubs that offer coffee and things like that. So and also the locations are something to take into consideration. So it's very different, and I imagine every business starter has different areas to look at, and there are different factors that will impact on whether they're successful or not, certainly at the beginning.
And that is exactly the point. There are so many different factors. It depends on the type of business that you're going to be starting. For the cafe, you're absolutely right. Geographical factors are going to be one of those things. For dog walking, it will be demand as well as geography. So there's all of those things. But the biggest thing I notice whenever I've asked this at university is, you know, so who are your biggest competitors? People will say, oh, I want to start up a photography business. They will mention these massive, bigger fish companies.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that's who they see as their biggest competition. And actually, that's the myth I want to break. And Dr. Hayley mentioned this as well. It's not necessarily the bigger fish that you need to worry about. It is the faster fish. It is the fish that goes, I've got the idea. I'm going to do it. I'm going to see what happens as I go along the way. Because by the time you've been perfecting your website to compete with the bigger fish, who really aren't your competition, because you've got to think more locally, the smaller fish but the faster fish has now gone, well, I've tried that didn't work, so I'm going to skew it to my competition. I know what my geographical area is. I know what I'm working with, and they can make those tweaks, and off they are running already.
Absolutely. It would be like me worrying about the Ritz.
Yes. When actually it might be the coffee shop who's going to open next door quicker.
Exactly.
So that's the thought. Test the trend this week. Think about your faster fish, not your bigger fish. There is so much to take away from that conversation. What key points are you going to think about this week?
Well, one is just how brilliant Dr. Hayley is. She's so brilliant. I could listen to her all day. And I think it's something that we both picked up on, which is that she talked about the things that other people don't talk about.
Yes, fee setting, one of the most important things. Because, again, when we kind of know that when you're on your own, you don't have the fallback of your organisation being able to say, well, you're getting paid anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yes.
If you don't show up, you don't get paid. So you need to factor that into what you're charging, and then you don't have to take back-to-back work, which is, I think, the other thing which can burn you out.
Yes, because I suppose when you're starting, you take anything that's offered within reason, because you don't know when your next work might be coming. And you know, Dr. Hayley's 10 years down the line and you're a lot of years down the line, and you can choose not to do something if it doesn't suit you. Whereas I absolutely can see that people just starting out are just going to take everything and then burn out in the first year.
And then do a lot for free.
And do a lot for free as well.
So I think her strategic point is really, really key. Does this thing that I'm going to do for free serve me strategically?
Yes.
And sometimes you have to do stuff for free.
Yes.
I'm sorry. If no one knows who you are, you're going to have to make that impression. You're going to have to, whether it's to make yourself a trailer reel or something, a show reel, whatever it is, maybe the free thing will position you strategically.
Exactly.
But then when you've got paid work, maybe you need to stop with the free thing.
Well, exactly. It's deciding how much of your free thing to give away. I mean, I'm quite happy to give away little bits of free brownies
if they're going to come in
to people that then will then come back and buy things.
Yeah, but if they start coming in at the time where you're giving away the free stuff, you know that they're just taking advantage and they're not actually going to be buying.
Exactly.
So I think this is the thing. It is about doing things strategically, doing things with intention, and actually being aware of your value.
Yes.
That's the other thing. And especially if it's a service that people do want, it does mean you can afford to charge more. And the way I think I see this, and I'm beginning to realise it for myself, is when people want me, they don't just want a leadership trainer. Because I am so unique in how I deliver, they want me. Which means that I can then say, you know, if you want me, this is how much I charge. But the funny thing is, in my own mindset, it was only when I didn't want to do the job that I started charging stupid prices, and then they still said yes.
Wow, that's really interesting.
But it
goes back to what.
Go, oh,
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It makes you realise your actual value is maybe more than the value that you put on yourself. Yeah. But it goes back to what Dr. Hayley said, was that client chose the most expensive out of 10. And
the other interesting thing there is that person may be brilliant and may be worth every single penny or not. But actually, if you've charged enough that gives you the rest of the month off or the rest of the next 6 months off, is that a problem for you? I'm saying morally that is an issue, but... Yeah, yes, interesting. Lots to think about. On that note, have a healthy week.